Hello, I'm Ryan Baker, and I'm here today to moderate a debate on the purpose of intelligent tutoring systems. Today we have with us here Ryan Baker, who will be arguing Etienne Wenger's perspective that intelligent tutoring systems are ultimately knowledge communication systems.
Hello, Ryan.
To present a contrasting view, we also have Ryan Baker, who will present John Anderson's viewpoint that intelligent tutoring systems are excellent for the development of procedural skill.
Thanks for inviting me, Ryan.
And we're also privileged to have with us today Ryan Baker, who will be arguing that the key purpose of intelligent tutoring systems is, as Art Gracer argues, the construction of complex understanding. Constructivism, yeah! Let's first start with some opening remarks. Ryan?
Right, so as I think we all know, early computer-aided instruction pretty much just had canned questions with single right answers. Agreed.
Enthusiastically agreed.
Right, so the big shift in the 1980s, and it went with trends in artificial intelligence more generally, was the idea that when we design an intelligent tutoring system, there's knowledge we want the students to know, and in order to communicate that knowledge to the student, we need to build that knowledge into the tutor. If we don't know exactly what we want the student to know, how can we hope they'll learn it? So, as Wenger put it, knowledge communication is defined as the ability to cause and/or support the acquisition of knowledge by someone else via a restricted set of communication operations.
Hey, that quote itself tells us everything we need to know. If we're supporting the acquisition of knowledge, it's different than giving them that knowledge. Dr. Baker, you'll have your turn later.
Right, so before I was so rudely interrupted, I was saying we know what we want the learner to know, but we need to get it in their head. Like pouring it in their head. Exactly, Dr. Baker, exactly. Computer-aided instruction was all about programming decisions. B.F. Skinner even called it programmed instruction. And intelligent tutoring systems are all about the programming of knowledge. Programming the knowledge into the tutor, programming the knowledge into the student. And when we think about it that way, as Wenger put it, the primary goal becomes computational understanding of the processes of knowledge communication. And that's what we need to build an intelligent tutoring system.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. Dr. Baker?
Thank you, Ryan. So, I'd like to present a different perspective on what an intelligent tutoring system is and should do. This perspective was pretty alien to the first generation of intelligent tutoring systems. In fact, Wenger referred to it as coming in the side door. In this perspective, which we call model tracing, our goal isn't to communicate knowledge. It isn't to pour knowledge into students' head like some bad parody of instructionism written about by Dewey or Papert or Freire. Hey, I represent that remark.
We shouldn't be depositing knowledge in the kid's head like it's a bank.
That analogy was weird when Freire made it. Moving on. Our goal isn't to communicate knowledge. At least it shouldn't be. It's to help students learn skills.
Constructivism, yeah!
Sure, we might know exactly what we want the students to learn. Nothing wrong with that. But the goal is to design the experience so the student learns it. Whether it's a simple skill like using the car operator in Lisp, or proving two triangles are congruent in geometry, or a complex skill like designing a set of experiments to be able to answer a causal question, Janice Gobert's work, we can specify a process by which a skill is demonstrated in a specific context, give that context to a student, and monitor them while they're working in the domain. Then we help them, we nudge them with a hint or some feedback until they can do the task just like an expert.
That sounds an awful lot like knowledge communication, Dr. Baker. What's the difference?
Remember when Dr. Baker quoted Wenger as supporting the acquisition of knowledge? Well, that's what I'm talking about. We aren't communicating knowledge, we're supporting its acquisition. And that turns out to be importantly different. We still need to know what we need students to learn, but we need to design pedagogies that help students learn it, not just communicate it.
So what would you say about last week's topical review, Dr. Baker?
Disappointing. Pure knowledge communication.
How about this week's topical review? Dr. Baker?
You mean this video? The one the students are watching right now? Pretty bad. Where are the skills being learned?
This week's video isn't going for skill development. It's about knowledge construction.
You can talk about that when it's your turn. Anyways, here's the thing. Skill can be represented as a set of modular, goal-directed, directional, abstract rules. If you can break down all knowledge into those rules, called production rules because they produce behavior, then you can help students learn them piece by piece. You give them experiences to help them learn it, and then you give them practice to help them strengthen the rule until they know it solid.
Let's now hand the floor to Dr. Baker. Radio! Let's start with today's video. It's about knowledge construction, building up concepts, complex collections of ideas, and then linking them to each other, creating a semantic web of concepts.
What a mess of ideas and disagreements.
You're right! And according to Blair Lehman and Sidney DeMello and Art Gracer, contradiction is a really good way to learn complex ideas. Heck, that goes back to Piaget, which reminds me, constructivism, yeah!
You're so repetitive. Repetition is good for learning.
Exactly. So, knowledge construction. We shouldn't just communicate knowledge, and we shouldn't just help students build simple procedural skills. We should help students construct complex knowledge, build up their knowledge, connect it. They'll remember it better if it's richly connected to the rest of their knowledge.
The hippie is in the church.
Come on, Baker. Nobody reads Anderson and Reader 1999 anymore.
Well, they should. The young folks don't know Google Scholar anymore.
Ahem, everyone. Dr. Baker, how does knowledge construction work? Glad you asked. You ask students probing questions and have them respond with their best answers. You compare what they say to full understanding and ask them more probing questions, more and more probing questions, to help them move to an answer that demonstrates full understanding. That's how AutoTutor works.
Sounds interesting.
I agree. I'm like #1 member of the Gracer fan club. Anyways, there are several strategies one can use to help students build their knowledge. Contradiction, we've already talked about it. Prompts, asking a student for more details. Hints, often in the form of questions. Prompts, to try to get the student to produce a single keyword pointing to the correct answer. Assertions, when necessary. Just telling the student what the system's going for if that's what we need.
Isn't that just another way of communicating knowledge to them?
Maybe it is by Wenger's definition, but it's so fundamentally different than the general idea of communicating knowledge used in early intelligent tutors that it's hard to call them the same thing. Thanks, everyone. Lightning round. Which systems use each of these approaches today?
Reasoning Mind's instruction modeling approach essentially is knowledge communication. The system models and emulates a teacher teaching.
AutoTutor and Systemness are still in use, at least for research, and Pearson's Watson Tutor is being used today at scale.
Cognitive Tutor, the very system in this week's reading, may have a new name, Mathia, but it's used by over 500,000 kids a year today.
Very impressive, Dr. Baker.
In fact, I'd go so far as to say that development of skill is the primary paradigm today for most intelligent tutoring systems.
Perhaps, but there are a lot of adaptive learning systems out there that are pretty much knowledge communication. Dr. Baker, I thought last week that you said that intelligent tutoring systems and adaptive learning systems were the same thing. It's more specific to say that a lot of systems that say they're adaptive learning, but aren't really adaptive at all, those are the ones that are knowledge communication systems.
Bold words for somebody whose preferred paradigm is barely used at all today.
Knowledge construction is the learning paradigm of the future.
Knowledge construction dialogue tutors are too expensive to build. Knowledge construction is the learning paradigm of the future, and it always will be. Ha!
Okay, looks like we're out of time. Thank you all for your time.
Thanks for coming. We'll be on the discussion forums all week.
Discussion forums are all about knowledge construction. Looks like we're out of time. This class is using connectivist pedagogy. Connectivist pedagogy is all about knowledge construction.
Time to get out the Xanax.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Ryan Baker, signing out.